Hey guys, real quick, before we get into it, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any of the tea. Thanks.
Hey, Charles.
Hi, welcome. How's our week going?
My week is going okay. How about yours?
It's good. What's today, Wednesday?
Today is Wednesday.
So we're halfway through the week. All right, so halfway done, halfway there. We have a lot to talk about today.
We do.
Right? So we are actually revisiting some topics.
Right? That we've discussed before.
And we're in this beautiful studio. Tell everyone where we're at.
At the Comfy Stone podcast studio space. So this is a really, really cool space.
I do like
Very
this
excited to be filming here. Very nice setup. It's actually the location where we filmed seasons 1 and 2, but they've changed things up a little bit here. So that's why it looks a little bit different, but always a great time to come and film with the Comfy Stone team.
Yes.
So let's jump right in.
Oh, man.
Our very first episode
It was
of
our first
Pelican
episode.
Briefs was about the River District. And there have been some very, very interesting updates.
Yes.
Do you want to let our listeners know what is going on?
Yes.
One, what is the River District
Okay,
to
fair.
refresh everyone's memory, and what is going on?
Yes. So this was our first topic of our first episode
Very
of the
first
podcast,
episode.
which I just thought of. And there's been rather interesting, very recent developments. I literally texted Etosha. I was like, "T," and she goes, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "Yeah, it is a lot," and I was not expecting this. I mean, I guess maybe it was because it's New Orleans, but so to kind of remind everyone, the River District is a chunk of parcels of land along the Mississippi River that's kind of sandwiched in between the Warehouse District, the Lower Garden District, that area off of Chapatoulas. And it's really the last piece of undeveloped land in kind of the, core part of New Orleans, excluding New Orleans East and, kind of the outskirts.
And really on the riverfront,
On
right?
the river,
Like
correct, on the riverfront.
a large swath of land that is not
Yes.
the aquarium, the convention center, any number of things that have developed along
And
there.
it's a big piece of
It's a big
land,
piece,
right?
yeah.
And so New Orleans has been trying to create it's been for decades now, right? To create what other cities have been doing successfully, creating these mixed use districts that combine office and retail and housing and commercial amenities and so on and so forth. And it has...
And we've seen it happen successfully, right? When you think about the seaport in Boston, which is really kind of one of those spaces that was pretty industrial, that now if you go there, it is shopping, it's dining, it's housing. You think of Hudson Yards. In
great
New
example.
York
Yep.
is another example of this really concentrated area, or even the piers in New York as well, where they've taken this sort of industrial space and converted it into areas where there's entertainment and dining and housing. And so it's something we were trying to do with our riverfront property here in New Orleans. And what has happened?
So there are key players in all of this. So this is really largely spearheaded by the convention center.
Yeah.
They're more kind of like the, overseers of this. And a few years ago, after a bunch of bids, a local development group called RDNI, River District, I can't remember.
Neighborhood Initiative,
Yes.
right? Or
which partnered with this local developer called Lorchella. They won the bid to develop this, right? And the initial plans which have gone through many iterations, some more definite than others. To date, the current tangible thing is the construction of a new headquarters for Shell.
Right.
And that's currently underway, and that is happening, right?
Yeah.
So the buildings are already they're building the foundation, and when you drive down Chapatoulas, you can see it. So that's happening. The most controversial part was they had plans to build a Topgolf.
Right.
But that is dead in the water because 504 Golf beat them out and is on the interstate and opening and looks to be successful, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that
From what I see.
the version of events that they might say, right, is that the project's been hung up in litigation, which we know there still is actually ongoing litigation
Technically, yes.
around the Topgolf. But we also recognize that 504, which is a similar golf venue a little bit further away from the river, broke ground, built up, and now they're open and running. And I think one of the big questions that we had at the start of kind of both of these projects is New Orleans a city that could support two of these entities? I think the reality is that it's not. And so while there, hasn't been an official, it's never going to happen with regards to Topgolf.
Right.
I think it's pretty safe to say that
I would agree.
Yeah, that's
So
over and done.
So you have the shell building, Topgolf, and the other main part is, kind of just a mixed use of apartments and retail and restaurants. And there was about, I don't know, 2 months ago, the announcements of one of the first apartments, I think called the Ravana or something like that. And they had renderings, and I don't know if that's already been put out for bid or not. But this all came to so that's kind of the context, right? That's where we were. And to kind of tell people where we are, it's not really gone off the ground.
Yeah.
It's been delayed for various reasons, only the shell building. And around August, the convention center came out, news articles that they were deeply frustrated at the lack of progress, also missed payments, and there's clauses that if you don't meet certain metrics, you have to pay that back, blah, blah, blah. So this came to a screeching halt last week in a twofold way, actually. So the first story that came out was the convention center scheduled an emergency meeting to be like, are we going to continue with this or not? And what are we doing here? But then later in the day, plot twist, RDNI has one of their, mediators or whoever contact the convention saying, we're actually pulling out.
Yeah.
So the meeting that was scheduled was for naught because at the very last minute, they said, actually, we're just not even going to proceed, period.
Yeah.
So this breaks on NOLA.com and everyone's like, wait, so what's happening? And I think that's the question. What's happening? I don't know. I don't know where this is now. I don't know what this means for the completion of the shell building. What I do know is that this does now put the convention center in a position to have a more explicit oversight and coordination of this.
Yeah.
Now, is that good or bad? I don't know per se. Am I surprised by this?
Are you surprised?
No, I'm frustrated because I really wanted this to come to fruition at a much speedier length, timeline than it is. I'm not surprised. This is on the par for messy politics of New Orleans is the nicest way I can put it. But I'm frustrated.
It is frustrating.
Because other cities are doing this and they're blowing past us. And we just can't seem to get our stuff together to push this to the finish line.
Such an exciting project. Again, one of those things that riverfront development is something that is so exciting, something we're seeing not just across other cities here in America, but really across the globe,
Absolutely.
right? That's what people look for. It's a premium. And it's almost like we couldn't give it away here, which is really, really disheartening and frustrating. I have to say, in our first episode, I was less skeptical about some of the commercial development and definitely more skeptical about the residential development, right? Particularly around it, there being affordable housing in the River District. But I can pretty safely say I definitely didn't think that this would implode so quickly.
So why do you think he pulled out? I've not yet seen a reason or an explanation of why RDM was like, you know what, we're out.
Well, I think one of the big things that was a huge component of kind of getting this going and getting it propelled forward, right, was Shell as a tenant and Topgolf. And we have seen that Shell has moved forward, which is really exciting. But the Topgolf situation was, I think, out the gate, just handled poorly with the location in the River District, being moved, the residents feeling like the wool got pulled over their eyes.
1,000%.
People feeling like not everything was above board and how it was communicated. You then had sort of the back and forth fighting and litigation between Topgolf and 504 and those different things. And so I think that project was just marred with so much discord and then became really costly when you think about the litigation that's happened around it.
Absolutely.
And I think all of that momentum and swell that was happening really got deflated by that. I really do believe had Topgolf been able to break ground and move at the pace that 504 did and outpace the 504 location, we might be having a different a different discussion. But the reality is that was never going to happen. When they first started having these conversations, that property over off of I-10 that has now become 504 was already so much further along in this life cycle. And what probably would have really been a better effort is to think about an alternative that could have been, put in that space as entertainment. Is it, a new arena, a new, multi-use sports complex or facility? Is it, something kind of like what you see at the piers in New York, where you've got a mix of like the Naval Museum is there, and there's also like the golf, and then there's also the shopping. And, there were, I think, other ways to think about this, but so much was tied to, we have to have Shell, we have to have Topgolf. Those are going to be the two big tenants. Those are going to be the things that bring people there. And I think Topgolf kind of falling away really took the wind out of the sails of the project. And it's really unfortunate that that was such a critical linchpin to this.
Do you think that we were lacking for creativity to think about other things? Like we put all our eggs in that Topgolf.
I think it's two things. I think the lack of creativity with regards to what entertainment could look like in that space. I also think one of the things that we do here in New Orleans that is sometimes a detriment to us is that resistance to change and that resistance to development.
No disagreement
and,
here.
And while I certainly don't disagree with the residents of that community of like, hey, I don't want these gigantic golf nets over my house, I do wonder how much of the resistance around the size and scale of what would be developed there and residents not really wanting something of that scale in that area also was just a really critical miss here. Again, I completely agreed. I think the original location of the Topgolf should have been on the riverside and not on the residential side. I still stand by that, and I don't think the residents were wrong in that regard. But yeah, I think there was a lack of creativity. I think there is also just some maybe underestimations of just what it takes to get these kinds of projects off the ground, financially, logistically, all of the things. We also understand, and not to go too far off of this tributary of the current administration in the city, we also understand that, there's been rubs between the mayor and the city council and the support that the mayor has here, right? Is there resistance in bringing dollars and investments to the city of New Orleans because people haven't trusted, the administration that's been in place in the city? So I think there are so many factors that kind of worked against this development. It's really tough to see it fall through. I do have hope. The convention center has a new president, CEO.
They do, yeah.
It's also, been growing and undergone huge renovation. And so while we are definitely feeling some competition from other cities with regards to bringing big conventions here, the reality still remains that New Orleans is one of the few cities in the country that can host conventions of a certain size and scale.
Agreed.
And so really trying to continue to leverage what we have to offer and the emphasis on how having something anchored by the convention center really can help this, a rising tide raises all ships.
True.
Really developing that and bringing something new, exciting, and fresh to that area, what it would mean for the city as a whole.
So do you think it's dead in the water, or do you think that with a new incoming administration, there'll just be kind of restarting, not from scratch, but
I don't think it's dead in the water. I think we are probably going to see something scaled down, right? I think what is initially going to kick this off is probably going to be something smaller than sort of that initial vision of the river district. But I still do believe that that area will be developed. I do
too.
think that you really do have a swell of support around doing something there. There is that use case of, we see this happen in other cities and happen very successfully. I think there's going to be rethinking of what that looks like and how it's done. And I definitely think it's gonna start smaller here.
I think I agree, and I would say that the convention center does have in my opinion, a fairly successful track record of. I mean, they're the whole remodel in general.
Yeah, the whole remodel there. Yeah,
they're about to embark on the construction of the Omni Hotel.
Yep.
Right, and at the end of the day, they are a powerful economic driver in this city that gets a lot of. I think they're very respected at the state level. So while it is a setback, I don't think it's dead in the water. And part of my interpretation is that this might have been too big of a project for these local developers.
And I don't necessarily know if it was too big of a project for the local developers. I do think it's back to your point of was there some creativity missing here? And I think that was a really critical miss here. We got Shell, we got Topgolf.
There's also the museum. Don't forget about that too. The state Louisiana Music Heritage and Museum. Yeah.
And so, but I do think as far as the sort of big tenants that were supposed to get this off the ground, I think they were really married to this Shell Topgolf piece. And the second that Topgolf fell through, it was kind of it was a shaky foundation and it's kind of collapsed. So I think not really having the appropriate scope and appropriate creativity of what could be done here.
You don't think this might be far out there, but you don't think this will, and I don't foresee this, but any way of stopping the construction of the Shell building?
No,
I'm not even trying to ask that.
They've already broken ground. Shell has already made the investment, and I think the reality is, as we already said, this plot of land is going to get developed, right? And so, much like One Shell Plaza on Poydras sort of changed the face and identity of downtown New Orleans, I think Shell has a track record, right, of understanding where the city is moving.
That's a good point.
Where to kind of plant their flag economically. Shell wouldn't have committed to that if they didn't think that this was going to be something that was going to grow and really become something and become an economic driver in the city. And Shell didn't make that commitment because of Topgolf.
Does that still hold true though, as of last week with the pulling out of?
I still believe it.
Okay.
And again, we can look at One Shell Plaza is not the first skyscraper in the city, right? But it is what defined what became, iconically our,
very good point.
Central business district in the city, right? So they've done this before. They have the track record. And I don't think they would have made that kind of commitment lightly. I think they know that this is prime real estate.
They probably anticipated the roadblock. I mean, they're not naive, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they're in these conversations, and as they're watching what's happening, they knew that this was a possibility, right? They knew that this was a possibility that, okay,
Great point.
You have all these movers and shakers in the mix, and this might not go the way they think it's gonna go. Shell knows they can do what they need to do for their property without what's happening with RD&I.
Okay.
They know that the convention center is growing and thriving and flourishing, and that they're committed to making sure that that area of the city grows and thrives.
Yeah.
They're bought in.
Okay.
And I think them being that bought in means that someone who can bring this to the next level will be bought in as well.
Yeah, I agree. So
we'll continue watching
as
we've done.
And in all disclosure, this wasn't necessarily an episode we were going to do, but when that tea came out, we're like, well, we have to revisit this.
We got to talk about it now. Yeah.
If y'all can see our text messages when breaking news come out, it was great. But yeah, we'll continue following it. So we're not hopeful that it won't happen. It's just a setback.
Yeah.
Right? To what degree? But, you know.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
We'll continue to keep an eye on it.
So
Yeah.
we'll keep y'all briefed on it on Pelican Briefs, pun intended.
As always, a great conversation.
Great conversation.
Listeners, if there are any other topics you are interested in hearing, as always, please leave us a comment, drop us a DM. We love to hear what you guys are interested in and what you would love to hear us talk about or keep on our radar. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our Patreon. All of our episodes drop a week early on our Patreon. So if you want to get advanced info and be in on the tea earliest, that's where you can get it first. We always appreciate you guys, and we look forward to checking in with you next week.
Till next
Bye.
time. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Pelican Briefs.
If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
If you are loving the show, you can help us keep the conversation going by supporting us on Patreon.
Your contribution on Patreon ensures we can continue producing quality content you love.
Click the link in the description to become a patron today.
Until next time, this is Pelican Briefs.